a hard act to follow, my boss and Marcelo, but I'm going to try to do my best. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to have a great conversation with some four very powerful women. I love sharing stages with powerful, intelligent women. It's a motivator for me, and I hope that today's conversation will motivate some of you. Brief introduction so that all of you know who I am. My name is Jessica Bedoya. I am the Chief Strategy Officer and Chief of Staff at the Inter-American Development Bank. And I know it might seem a bit odd, why is a development bank moderating a panel on fintech? But I'm really proud to say that we are the only multilateral financial institution based out of Washington, D.C., focused on Latin America that has its own innovation laboratory, IDB Lab. And I want to thank my incredible colleagues at IDB Lab who have not only done exceptional work in the region in terms of supporting women-led fintechs and women entrepreneurs in Latin America and the Caribbean, but who helped organize today's panel. So I'm really excited to learn from each and every one of you on your journeys, what brought you here, what's your passion, what's your enthusiasm and drive. And so we can talk about those challenges and opportunities that I will say firsthand, having worked at the US government focused on Latin America and now at the IDB, I'm now seeing what the real opportunities are in terms of investment. We've heard from Mauricio, my president, who's very enthusiastic and always sees the upside of what's going on in Latin America, and from Marcelo on how Latin America needed to be at the table in terms of investment and in the fintech space, in the VC world. But I think this conversation will help fill the gaps on how we need more women at the table, more women leading in the region, and more women getting access to credit and investment so that the region that we're all focused on and passionate about here on this stage can actually advance and reach those goals that we all know that it could always reach. So with that, and without further ado, because I know everyone's here to listen to our panelists, I wanted to briefly allow them a few minutes each to provide all of us an introduction on who they are, how they got here, and what they're focused on. So I wanted each and every one of you to please provide a 3-minute elevator pitch to our audience here on why you decided to become an entrepreneur, what was that drive and motivation, and what problem is your startup particularly trying to solve in the region, or what technology are you trying to feed into? So if we could begin with Anna.
Hi, nice, thank you for having us. I started my career as an entrepreneur after being 12 years in banking. And I was trading derivatives, first in Colombia and then in London. And I enjoyed a lot of what I do. I enjoyed finance, but my career was lacking purpose. I felt that I was kind of like innovating, creating really sophisticated and structured products, but that were not making any real difference. So that's why I decided to come back to Colombia and focus on financial inclusion, innovating on products where I think matter most and make the most difference. So that's how I started Aflore. Aflore, we're focusing financial inclusion. We have created a new channel for reaching the emerging middle class. This is low middle income people that don't have access to financial services. So what we have created is an innovative distribution model based on what we call a community of informal financial advisors. This can be the baker down the road, the lady that runs the pub store around the corner, that can become an informal advisor and offer Aflore loans and insurance products to her close networks of trust. And that is, of course, possible through technology. People that are not very financially, they are not financial experts, but with a simple app, they can offer our financial products. We have disbursed about $25 million in small loans for micro businesses and individuals, with a network of about 8,500 informal advisors in Bogotá and Medellín. And we're expanding rapidly across Colombia and later to Latin America.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I want to touch on that a little bit more in terms of how that technology has helped, at least in Colombia, women entrepreneurs have access and get that advice that they need in terms of building up their businesses, because that's a critical component to what we look at in terms of sustainable development. Daniela, please.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. And for me, it's a pleasure to share this panel with this amazing woman. I'm Daniela. I'm passionate about numbers, banking, and systems. I see the world through numbers. I know all the license plates and phone numbers of my friends and family. I don't know if it will serve me someday, but I know them. I was formerly also a banker and a CFO until I received a call from Aaron, who's one of the founders of Kushki, to have a coffee. And he he talked to me about the idea, so we created Kushki 6 years ago with Aaron and Sebas. I'm Ecuadorian, so Kushki it was created in Ecuador. What do? It's that we connect LATAM through payments. There was a big issue in Latin America because there's no standardization of payments in the region. You are not able to do cross-currency payments, and there's a lot of legacy technology in LATAM. So what do? It's that we provide our clients through a single API connection. It's only one connection, and you are able to do payments in almost every country in Latin America. And you are able to do also a lot of different payments, credit cards, debit cards, cash, and transfers. What is that? Why is that so important? It's because, for example, in Colombia, 8 out of the 10 payments that are done in cash. So we also have a very huge network extension in cash in all of the countries that we operate. So our dream is to connect LATAM through payments.
Thank you.
What drives me
yes.
to be an entrepreneur? It's to be able to create, and in 6 months to see the results of what we've created. For me, it's also very important in our region to provide value-added jobs. A year ago in Kushki, we were 200 employees. Now we are 750 across the region. Value-added employments for developers. So for me, it's really amazing, and it's very proud to see all the people and the opportunities we're giving to them, to their families, to change, for example, the Ecuadorian technology ecosystem and other countries. And for me, another important thing is to support women. I think that's one of the missions I think I have in life, or I'm discovering I have it. So for me, it's really amazing to be able to show that women can also do a lot of great things, and with the support of men always. So that's also very proud for me to do.
Thank you so much. And an interesting statistic, over half of the 31 million jobs lost in the first 3 months of COVID were lost by women. And what we're seeing in the region, as you mentioned, the goal of your startup of job creation, or the access to credit for the 70% of women in the region who don't have access to credit, who are trying to be women entrepreneurs. I think it's important to have these conversations and to be very upfront and honest about those challenges, and that, thank God, we have women like yourselves who are wanting to make that change happen in the region, because from our perspective as a development institution, we need that. We need to have these touch points with individuals like yourselves so that we can actually effectuate change. So next, Ximena.
Okay.
Please.
Well, really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So my name is Ximena Aleman. I am co-founder and co-CEO of Prometeo. Prometeo is the largest open banking platform in Latin America. So what we do is we provide a single point of access to banking in LATAM. Okay? We provide a single API that connects our clients through the banks of Latin America. So I think that when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, for me it was all about having like a career path that would be as exciting and challenging as I wanted it to be. So I thought that, okay, becoming an entrepreneur would provide that, and it did, of course. But I think that you can provide meaning into your idea as you go along with it. You know, like it's difficult to create meaning upfront. So what drives me right now, it's different to what was driving me back then. So I think that once you start this path and you have an idea and you start to create a product, you understand more comprehensive what is that you are doing and the challenges that you are solving or the problems that you're solving. So for me right now, open banking, of course, it's a tool for interoperability, but what I think that it does at the end, it's provide a better experience with money, And in Latin America, this is so crucial, Like money, it's always difficult, It's hard to get it, but it's also hard to invest it. It's also hard to save it. It's also hard to use it, because the experience of money is difficult. And I think that what open banking changes is that, through interoperability, what we can provide is a better experience with money, and hopefully we'll have a better access to money, a better savings, better investment opportunities. And I think that it's really, really crucial on how we Latin Americans relate with money, So I think that changing this experience with money, for me, it's something that always drives me, I think that if we think about like banking networks in LATAM are crucial for the economy. Every 15 days, all the GDP goes through banking networks. And however, interoperate with banks is still a headache, It's so hard to interoperate with banks. So in Prometeo, what we are doing, it's solving this headache for our customers, trying to provide them with a single point of access to all the banking experience through the region.
And that's great. And I'm glad that you mentioned and both of you mentioned the issue of cash, because I think another issue that we explore as an institution is how to improve savings rates in Latin America and the Caribbean, because in Latin America and the Caribbean, savings in the traditional sense, here in the United States, you put money away in a bank account. You don't have that as a cultural imperative in Latin America and the Caribbean. It's still a challenge. Many people are very much want to keep their cash in their homes, and they don't put it in institutions, and they don't make that money work for them. And so I think that's a very big cultural shift for the region. I say that firsthand because my family lives in the region, and they have very traditional views of savings and what to do with your money and how to invest or not invest because it's too much risk. So I think it's fascinating what you're trying to do and how you're trying to contribute to that change in culture. And Pascale, last and not least, but not least.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, ladies. My name is Pascale. I'm an entrepreneur from Haiti. I started working in actual. I started as a pension and insurance company as a consultant in Canada and in Haiti. So I work with a lot of data as well. I started Haiti Pay, co-founded Haiti Pay a while ago, 2014. It was an idea that took place after the earthquake in 2010. So it took us 4 years to, macerate all that and put it together to better understand what were the needs of the population exposed by being touched by the earthquake situation, and the most impacted population was the one that was left outside the traditional financial sector and financially excluded. So with our technology, we create a payment ecosystem. We connect communities to build payment facilities. And this is what is, for Haiti, for example, it's very important to leverage and offer financial services to the bottom of the pyramid and help empower the communities through financial services.
Great, thank you.
And in Haiti Pay, for example, we work a lot with women. Because this is we engage a lot of women in the company to, it brings a lot of idea and solution and finding.
Great, thank you so much for that preview. And I know we're all here to talk about fintech, so let's pivot quickly on what you're seeing in terms of challenges and opportunities. We've seen a lot of different statistics and studies that over $200 billion have gone into fintechs globally in terms of investments, and there's a lot of money out there. I think that's also part of the discussion that we heard with Mauricio and Marcelo. There's a lot of capital out there we need to really harness and catalyze. So I want to hear from each of you sort of what are those challenges and opportunities in fintech? Where do you see the space moving? And let's start with Daniela.
Okay, thank you. So I think that one of the largest challenges probably is regulation. I believe that technology advances much faster than regulation, so there's a big gap in regulation. So we need to work as fintech companies and the whole ecosystem with the government very closely. there's a lot of legacy technology also in the banking system, so that's a thing that we need to work. And in LATAM, we have seen a lot of monopolic systems that are now starting to break, and these monopolic systems, they didn't allow the innovation. So we are in an era that we need to innovate. We need to make consumers the life easier and cheaper also. So let me give you an example. For example, in our countries, you can be able to pay a $4 bill for electricity, but you need to pay a $2 bill for transportation to pay the electricity physically. Through Kushki, you can pay like in the fourth part of that price. So we need to allow technology to get even to the low part of the pyramid, because in that part, it's like really a high cost for them to don't have these banking systems. Opportunities, I see open banking for sure, so we may help Ximena to do that in Prometeo. I think that one of the largest opportunity, me as a former banker, it's to work closely with the banking system. When we created fintech, was like not a good word for banks some years ago. So I do believe that we are not competitors, we are partners. So we are able to do with technology what banks are not able to do. So we need to work very closely with the banking system to provide better services, better products, lower cost for the whole society. So I think that maybe those are two big opportunities for fintechs in LATAM.
Great, thank you. Anna?
I think that we're just scratching the surface, because the opportunity is immense. If you think about it, in particular about financial inclusion, think that 99% of companies are MSMEs that still lack a lot of access to good financial products, and also that 60% of the population is informal or derive their income informally. And these two very large segments are still very underserved in terms of financial services. Anything from how to make payments easy, how to connect, how to provide better access to credit and investment opportunities, etc. So despite all the investment that you have mentioned, it's still a very underserved market. So opportunities are plenty in that regards. And you need it both from the consumer perspective, from MSMEs and individuals in this demographic. For us in particular, the emerging middle class, that at the end of the day is where most of the income of the region is concentrated, but the one that lacks the most access to financial services. But also in terms of infrastructure. So I think that As4 are a clear example of both the infrastructure play that Ximena and Dani are mostly focusing on, or where we focus more directly to the individuals. So I think those are the biggest opportunities in those segments.
And in terms of the regulatory system, I think I just want to delve a little deeper. I want to ask each of you fairly to provide the challenges and opportunities, but if you could add a little more in terms of that regulatory system, what you're seeing in terms of being able to build up that infrastructure. Maybe Ximena, you can touch on that a little bit, and then Pascale.
In terms of regulation?
Yes, exactly. Kind of how that contributes to the challenges and opportunities, and how you see what's a pathway to improving that so that it could facilitate people coming after all of you, paving the way for the future, the next generation of fintechs.
Of course, as an infrastructure player, Prometeo, in Prometeo, we're really, really excited about the opportunity that infrastructure lays ahead, you know. I think that, as Anna stated, we are just scratching the surface of how infrastructure can change digital services, financial services, ahead for everyone. And I think that regulation is crucial for this. Basically, the thing, what happens is like, okay, technology goes ahead, you know, and you have fintech players trying to provide solutions, but then regulation creates uncertainty on these solutions, you know, because you never know how the regulator will regulate or how it will act on the innovation that you are creating. It's really, really crucial for us to have better understanding on regulators' needs and thoughts, but at the same time trying to work together, And more than work together, I would say I have similar time lapses, like approaches to time, because usually regulation takes a lot, And I can, of course, address the case of open banking in Mexico, Like the fintech law addressed the open banking in Mexico 4 years ago, and it was such a good news for the ecosystem. But then the pace of adoption of open banking slowed down too much, for that country. And other countries like Brazil took the front, and they were able to implement open banking faster. But I would say that it's really important for regulators to understand that the times of technology are faster, like our speed, and not just startup speed, but the speed of the market, like users are needing this technology and are asking for that. And that's really, really important. So I think that's why the need of regulator frameworks is so important. And at the same time, I would say that in Latin America, having that many countries, it will be really useful if regulators could agree on regulatory frameworks, so that some technologies will be easier to implement in different countries with similar approaches in terms of regulation. And that's something that you don't see usually, like it's each regulator taking their own path, but at the same time for the market, it will be awesome if we will have a single approach, or at least a similar flavor to the approach.
Agreed, 100%. I think standardization of those regulatory frameworks is something that we're also trying to figure out as an institution. How can we contribute to that? Because that does facilitate investment. It does create the confidence that investors need to operate in certain environments. And we're seeing more and more that countries in the region are clamoring for that. They just don't know how. And so I think that's why these conversations are really helpful to inform, not only as governments and policymakers try to develop those policies, but also yourselves in the market as market players, how you can contribute to those changes to help facilitate all of your work. Pascale.
And Haiti Pay provides mobile wallet solution and creates payment ecosystem to the people that are unbanked or not have access at all to the financial sector. So we're using technology to bring financial solution to those communities. And as we said earlier, those communities have already a way of functioning. And the technology and solution we're providing is using their system through the technology. For example, in Haiti, we work with Saving and Loans Association. And instead of putting cash in a box, we are transforming that box into a mobile application and a mobile wallet that allows to make loans, saving, calculate the interest, etc. So it helps converting a cash-based economy into a more formal way of doing transaction, and using those information, collecting from the information brings the capacity to provide financial tools, financial transaction at a lower cost. So the opportunities, the more you're working with the technology and the more you're working with the communities, you come with different solution design. And so the opportunities are endless, and there's always a new solution to bring to the table. The challenge is you need to surround yourself with people that understand the strategy. And so you can move forward with implementing and reach that goal of financial inclusion and bring the financial sector and financial connectivity to the communities that do not have access at all and that are using cash as a way of doing transaction. And cash is very expensive and non-traceable, and that makes it not easy to reach a global network for those communities. As for the regulators, we start Haiti Pay in a non-regulated environment. So from the day one, we establish a communication with the regulation, the central bank mostly, to make sure that we guide them, because technology, as we said earlier, it always has an advance in terms of compared to the regulation. So it's a conversation that started the day one with the regulators to accompany them to where we want to go with fintechs. They're used to work with traditional banks and traditional financial institutions. So the fintechs has to impose their way and accompany the regulators to have a framework that works for fintechs as well. So it's a continuous innovation, continuous discussion with regulators, and this is where we are.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think talking about having those continuous and iterative discussions with regulators and in the markets and in the countries that you operate, I think is important, and something that we've seen from our institutional perspective, that a lot of people tend to shy away from those conversations because they are difficult, because sometimes policymakers or governments aren't as receptive to those messages, that the demand is there and no one's responding as quickly as possible. But I think that's why having platforms like this during huge events that are important is good, because it sends those messages to the region and to other investors that there are people actively trying to be disruptors, not only in markets and creating new markets, but also in terms of regulatory systems and in the policy-making space, because it is, as Justin said earlier, this merging of policy and practice in terms of investment that's really important. We can't lose sight of it. So pivoting really quickly on why we're all here and why we're all women on this stage and this platform today. An interesting statistic, 35% of the fintechs in Latin America have at least one woman in the C-level suite level of executive team members, above the global average of 7%. So the question to our panelists today is, that's pretty spectacular. That's a lot. Latin America still faces a lot of the machismo and the cultural biases against women, but they're advancing, at least within the fintech sphere. So I want to hear a little bit from each of you on what's your reasoning. What do you think could be behind this, the great placement of women in Latin America? There's still a lot more that we could do and we could see. How do you see women operating in this sector in particular? What makes this sector so great and illustrative for women to take leadership at an executive level? We can start with Anna.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you for a fact, but maybe just about my case, no? So having been at the trading floor for 10, 12 years, it's a tough environment for a woman to be in. And I, through my career in banking, I felt that I was not quite myself when I was in the trading floor. I was a little bit of a different person. I just needed to survive and succeed. And I think that I found it very nice of being able to move into fintech and run my own company was that the company could be as I wanted. I didn't have to be somebody else to survive and succeed, which is sometimes what I felt in a trading floor. So maybe that's I don't know, Danny, maybe that's part of the reason why there are many more women in fintech than because maybe we didn't quite fit in the traditional banking or in investment banking, etc. That's just my own theory of what
I welcome the theory. I think there's something to that. Ximena?
Yes, I think in the same direction, making hypotheses. I would say that I always felt that the corporate path was kind of too structured for me, and that it would be really difficult perhaps to have the flexibility that I wanted, in terms of life-work balance, in terms of always having new challenges, and I think that I thought that, okay, if I have my own company, then I will be always able to challenge myself, and at the same time have this flexibility that I want, and that for me it's so important, And I think that it's also something that I value, especially the possibility of create the environments that I want to be in, to create the environment that I want to participate, where I feel welcome and where I feel all women feel welcome, having the values that place them in horizontality with other men, where they feel that they can express themselves without having to ask for permission, where they feel that they are valued for the work that they do, despite perhaps the hours that they are in the office, So I think that all of those things make creating your own startup or working at startup really attractive.
That's great. Daniela?
I think that we're still missing a lot of women because probably that is statistic. There's only one C-level between 10. So for me, it's really important. And there's a lot of statistics that probably for you men, it's like really boring, like always hearing about the statistics. But one statistic that really calls my attention is that companies founded by women, they have only 2% of the funds from VC. That's 2 out of 100, not 2 out of 10. So it was like, it's really unbelievable. So I think that we all here have the responsibility to change that. IDB is doing a lot of work. We as women do a lot of work to support between each other, but I think that we all need to change the world, not for us, but for the kids, for next generations. And there's like a very interesting data. It's like 70 to 80% of the consumer spending is done by women. So men are creating products and services that are gonna be bought by women. So maybe it's really wise to have a woman in your part of your staff. Maybe you can sell more because they will know what women will like to spend on.
Correct, yes.
So I think that women do see the world like holistically. That's like different when you have the company. I think that we, both men and women complement each other. I think that 1 + 1 in men and women, it's 3. So what men do not see, we are able to see, and vice versa. So I think that the combination of the two, it's a really value added. So I think that our mission is to have more women, like for a responsibility for future generations. So maybe probably all of you have little daughters, do it for them. So I think that's really important.
Thank you.
We're missing a lot of women yet.
Yeah, completely agree. Pascale?
Yeah, and I think women are farsighted and solution finders by nature. And the work of a fintech that is vouching for financial inclusion has a life-changing impact on women, mostly in Haiti, in the Caribbean, and probably in the Latin America also. It brings physical security to financial security to women. So there's a sentimentality there also, women understanding the women's need. And that's what, for myself, that's what drives me to keep going with my fintech. It's the impact that it has on women in particular. And it's not enough, it's never enough. We need more women, and we need to be surrounded by more women that understand that the value of what the fintech has on the community. And events like this, to bring women in the front of the spotlight, is important so that we can inspire and empower other women to do the same.
Absolutely. And I feel significantly inspired sharing your story, hearing your stories, and sharing my own stories of being in a man's world, which unfortunately I have a good friend who recently told me, it's still a man's world, Jessica. It doesn't matter how hard we try, but we're going to get there someday. And I think these conversations contribute so that we can pave the way for the next generations. And I know we're running a little bit low on time before the next panel, so I wanted to give each of you 1 minute on a call to action or a key message or takeaway for our audience here who's listening intently on the fintech space, on women entrepreneurs, on your contributions in your countries. Anna, we'll start back with you.
Yeah, I would say for women entrepreneurs, just do it. Don't overthink it. It's a brilliant time to do it. I think that we were all just saying the three of us started a little bit earlier, and it was much tougher. But this is the perfect timing, a big problem looking to be explored and exploited. Good support, a completely different ecosystem than it was a couple years ago. It's amazing to think that just a couple years down the road, the ecosystem has evolved so much. So I would say just do it, don't overthink it. You will find the support. It's like that saying of leap and the net will appear. I think it's completely true. Just be passionate about it and just jump to it.
Wonderful. Ximena?
Yeah, totally. I'll take on what Daniela mentioned recently, just about that. And I think that the gap of funding for women-led or diverse teams-led startups it's impressive. As she stated, it's 2%. With shorter tickets and less valuation. So I think that it's really, really important for us to understand that when we fund a startup, we are also funding the world that we want to see. And I think that if we want to see better financial services or more diverse financial services, it's crucial to understand that the financial world that we have today was built by men, and it's perfect and fantastic, but it has a lot of room for improvement. And so what can we find in the next 20 or 30 years would depend on what we build today and the world that we fund today. So I think that it's really, really important to get more funding for women-led startups, because we are also funding their visions, and the products and how they are approaching the financial sectors and the gaps that they are seeing in the financial sector. So I think that that's really, really important. And then my advice for future entrepreneurs is work on your inner skills. I think that emotional skills are really, really important when you want to build something big and make it work outside. So it's really important to work on your inner strength and find the strength that you need in order to strive.
Thank you. Daniela?
For me, it's invest in LATAM. Kushki was created 5 years ago, 6. We are valued at 600 million right now, so I think it's a success story. Invest in women, I think it's really important. And just a fun fact, Kushki means money in Quechua, so hopefully that name will bring us luck. And thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Pascale?
My advice to women is to focus, keep going, and surround yourself with people that understand your goal, that understand your strategy, and that will willing to be part of your team. And as for investors, yes, invest in women-led companies. You know that the work will be done. And also, I'm adding that the funding issue is real for women. So more access to that is important to make it happen.
Wonderful. Well, all of you heard it here. Just do it. Take the risk. Women need access to funding. So let's get the world moving in the right direction. Thank you to all of our panelists and to all of you today. Thank you.